Welcome to Triumph IAS. It's a daily mains practice question and answer series. This program is exclusively designed for UPSC CSE aspirants. In this video discussion, we will discuss UPSC CSE mains previous 25-year questions. Question number 1. The women's questions arose in modern India as a part of the 19th century social reform movement. What were the major issues and debates concerning women in that period? Let's start with the introduction of the answer. The colonial rule brought with it Western education, liberal ideology, and a modern thinking. Many Indians went to London for their education and became the champions of eliminating the evils of Indian society. The new urban elite, drawing mostly from the upper castes, set the wheel for the social reform movement of the 19th century. The main body of the answer should be number 1. Orthodoxy and superstition was deeply rooted in the 19th century Indian society, and women were subject to many dogmas and irrational practices. Number 2. For example, women were discouraged to pursue education, child marriage and polygamy was rampant, and widow remarriage was not acceptable to society. Number 3. Women were denied the right to inheritance, and in some regions sati was practiced. Parda system was a norm in the society, and female infanticide was practiced on the horrendous scale. Number 4. The phase of syncretization engulfed the little freedom that women from lower caste had in terms of marriage, etc. The labor participation of women was very low, and women were confined to the four walls of households and take care of daily chores. Number 5. The British government, in fear of backlash from the Indian society, acknowledged both the Hindu and Muslim personal law despite of all its evils and unscientific customs. Number 6. Some of the English-educated Indian elite took the initiative to raise their voice against the evils prevalent in the society. Prominent among them were Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwarchandra Vidyasagar, M.G. Ranade, and R.G. Bhandarkar. Number 7. Organizations like the Brahmo Samaj, Arya Samaj, Theosophical Society, Prarthana Samaj, etc. were set up to take the cause of women. Feminist publications such as Manushi, Mahila Andolan Patrika were run by women to enlighten masses about women's rights. Conclusion of the answer is: gradually steps were taken to emancipate women through formal education, and accordingly legislations were enacted to liberate the women from orthodoxy and biased social norms. Question number 2. Effectiveness of the government system at various levels and people's participation in the governance system are interdependent. Discuss their relationship with each other in context of India. Let's start with the introduction of the answer. People's participation significantly influences the government systems in any democracy. The elements of good governance constitute the base of a democracy. Effectiveness of governance depends on many factors like level of people's participation, transparency, inclusiveness, adherence to rule of law, accountability of government, etc. The main body of the answer should be number 1. Effectiveness of the government system and people's participation are interdependent, as the participation from different arenas of society in the governance system decided the level of effectiveness. Various pressure groups immensely influence the policy-making process. Number 2. The women's rights groups, trade unions, students' associations, environmentalists, farmers' unions, and various other groups raising their voices for the entitlements of different vulnerable groups are vibrant participants of governance systems. Number 3. Effective governance is one that makes an impact of the lives of the masses through effective utilization of states' agencies, by making the services reach the doorstep of last man, and by ensuring social justice. However, the onus of good governance is not just on the state machinery. Number 4. The civil society is equally a stakeholder and thus responsible to ensure good governance by participating in the political system. Number 5. India is a participatory democratic country, and the Constitution of India also highlights that people's participation at various levels is a fundamental for good governance. Conclusion of the answer is: therefore, inclusive growth as envisaged by the government can only be achieved through active participation of masses and effective governance by the state. Question number 3. What are the different types of agriculture subsidies given to farmers at the national and state levels? Critically analyze the agriculture subsidy regime with the reference to the distortions created by it. Let's start with the introduction of the answer. Agriculture subsidies affects the livelihoods and food security of more than half of the world's population, especially developing countries like India. These subsidies tackle two major problems. The main body of the answer should be A. Food insecurity, due to high and volatile food prices. B. Livelihood, due to rising cost of production. Number 1. India at national and state level gives following types of subsidies. Number 1. Input subsidies. Under this, agricultural inputs are given at subsidized price to farmers for economic accessibility of inputs. Example: A. Fertilizer subsidy. Urea and other nutrient to increase soil fertility are given at subsidized prices. Urea subsidy, highest subsidy, is given through RPS, retention price system, and other nutrients are given through NBS, nutrient-based subsidy. B. Power subsidy. Many states of India give subsidized power price to farmer facilitating irrigation. C. Seed subsidies. High-yielding seeds are provided by government at lower prices. D. Credit subsidy. Credit availability to farmers for agricultural activities is provided at national and state level. Number 2. Price subsidy. GOI declares MSP for various agricultural products to ensure the livelihood of farmers in case market price decreases. MSP is higher than market price. Number 3. Export subsidy. Subsidy provided to encourage agri-product export through export subsidy. Recently, Food Security Bill has stirred discussion in WTO. As US demanded India to reduce public stock holding subsidy e.g. MSP, umber box subsidy, on food grains. Number 4. The Food Security Bill is aimed to deal with hunger and malnutrition by procuring food and distributing at PDS. India raised its MSP and expanded the safety net for food consumer and slashed tariffs from 30% and 50% to near 0% for rice and wheat, which raised concern in WTO. India breached 10% level, the minimum level, of umber box. Number 5. Umber box is concerned with trade distortion subsidies I, price-based subsidy and input subsidy. India gives heavy subsidization on fertilizer, I input subsidy, and MSP, price-based subsidy, which distorts the trade policies of WTO extensively. Conclusion of the answer is: it is a necessary action as it ensures India's food security and livelihood of farmers. Agriculture subsidy like fertilizer subsidy, though, is beneficial in food security of India. But it creates huge environmental impact, thus having adverse effect on nation's health, which would create distortion from international health standard.